YouTube world. This is Professor VJ. I've been gone for a little bit, but I am back. I've had a lot of competing priorities over the last, I guess, month or so, but I'm still here. I still want to grow my channel, and something came up today that I wanted to share with you. I have previously talked about the student loan forgiveness and previous videos. You can refer to those. But President Biden on yesterday, 12/22/2021, has extended the pause on student loan payments. So there was an article that I wanted to share with you from the Huffington Post that I thought was a great article, and it talked about the student loan pause. It was initially due to expire January 31st, 2022, but President Biden has extended it to May 1st, 2021. So the article states, again, this is from Huffington Post, we know that millions of student loan borrowers are still coping with the impacts of the pandemic, the president stated. The Biden administration on Wednesday, which was yesterday, today is Thursday, extended a student loan moratorium that has allowed millions of Americans to put off debt payments during the pandemic. Under this action, payments on federal student loans will remain paused through May 1st, 2022. Interest rates will remain at 0% during that period, and debt collection efforts will be suspended. These measures have been in place since early in the pandemic, but were set to expire January 31st. I wanted to stop there and just make a comment. Two very important points that I wanted to make. With student loans, many of you know, those of you that are in this situation, that you have the student loans that are looming over your head, that is a debt that you cannot discharge through bankruptcy or any other financial method or tool that's available to discharge a debt that you owe to a creditor. With student loan, from the moment that you sign those papers, you are indebted to that debt. So with this pausing of the moratorium, this is great because it pauses the interest as well, and it stops any collection calls that you may or may not have received or were about to receive if you were delinquent on your payments. So this is great. This is amazing. My advice to you, again, I deal with my students, and we have these conversations. This is a breathing pause, if you will. Excuse the pun, but it's a chance for you to regroup. If you know that these payments have been extended, the pausing, this is an opportunity for you to get on a budget, to get another job, which right now, everywhere you go, there are signs for, we're hiring. Get a better job, get a better paying job, get a second job, because, this debt, they can't postpone it indefinitely. Again, we see what's going on in Congress every single day. There's a lot of uneasiness. The economy is still not where we want it to be. That other situation has not turned the corner as we thought it would by now. So there is a restlessness, I will say, to stop a lot of these moratoriums, the rental assistance, the mortgage forbearance, student loan. That can't be paused indefinitely because there's so many different moving parts to that, and many of you that are in, that have credit products, you know what I mean. But unlike if you have a mortgage, a credit card, or a car loan, or personal loan, if you are able to go through bankruptcy, you may or may not, depends on your situation, may be able to discharge it. But with student loans, you cannot ever discharge that debt. So my advice is this is a gift. We're a couple of days out from Christmas. This is a gift from the president, from the administration, to give you some time to breathe, to come up with a plan of action. The best course is always to be proactive versus reactive. So my advice to you, if you're in this situation, is to start working on your plan of action right now. The holidays are here. There's 1,001 things that you could be doing that are competing for your time, your money, and your resources. But this is a debt that you can never discharge. It will follow you for the rest of your life. And I want to make a point here that I mentioned in previous videos, and I talked to my students about this, and the concept of ROI, return on investment. You always want to make sure that you've done your homework, you've done your due diligence, particularly with this type of debt, because it cannot ever be discharged. And sometimes you're young when you take out these student loans. You may be the first in your family to go to college. Again, but there's so many resources now. You can just Google pretty much anything that you want. And you'll be able to, get some really good advice from financial planners for people that understand these, credit products. But you want to make sure that it makes sense. So, for example, if you're taking out, $100,000, $50,000 student loan, you want to make sure that you've done your research, the field that you're going into, that you'll be able to get a decent paying job so that you can actually pay the debt back. It's kind of like going out buying a car for $70,000 and you're only making, as an example, 20,000. That just doesn't make sense. At some point, the car is probably going to be repossessed because you can't keep up with the payments for 5, 6, 7. I think now they're going up to 8 years, which that's not the purpose of this video. But again, it needs to make financial sense. I am a very big proponent of higher education, advanced degrees, professional degrees, but it must make sense. And what that means is you have to do your research on the front end and not the back end. Again, always, try to be proactive versus reactive. If you're going to start a business, make sure you've done your homework. If you're going to buy a car, if you're going to buy a home, you want to make sure that you've done your research so that you can make an informed financial decision. Because sometimes when we make bad decisions, and we've all been guilty of it when we were young and dumb and even older and dumb, that some of these decisions that we make will follow us for a very long time. And it prevents us from doing a lot of things that we'd love to do. As most of us were growing up, or the majority of people, we want to have a good quality of life. We want to have that work-life balance that we talk about so often, but sometimes very hard to achieve. We want to start a family. Those were most people's, goal, generally speaking, to buy a home, to live comfortably, to travel, to have a decent car, maybe not a new car, but a decent car that you can get from point A to B, taking a vacation, with your families once a year, quarterly, or whatever. So these are things that if you're saddled with a lot of student debt, you may not be able to do that. And that's very sad to me. So I talk to my students all the time, make sure that it makes sense. When you're undertaking these, and again, when you're young, you're in high school, your parents usually are guiding you through this process because you don't know. You're a child, or young adult, going into your adulthood. You don't know what all this stuff means. It's very, even for older adults, it's very confusing, some of these financial products. But again, now that now that we have the internet, now that we have Google, now that there's so many resources, there's like a video out there on YouTube for everything. Whatever you need to know, there's a video. Like I'm doing this video, so there's a video for everything. But just make sure it makes sense. So to go back to the article, it goes on to say that under the action, payments on federal student loans will remain paused through May 1st. Interest rates will remain at 0% during that period, and debt collection efforts will be suspended. I just want to reiterate that. It's a very important point. It goes on to say President Joe Biden said financial recovery from the situation will take longer than job recovery, especially for those with student loans. Okay, and this is important too. I wanted to read this. It states, again, this is an article from the Huffington Post online platform. The policy applies to more than 36 million Americans who have student loans that are held by the federal government. Their collective debt totals more than $1.37 trillion, according to the latest Education Department data. About a third of borrowers are in default or delinquency, and the average monthly payment is $400 a month. So again, I wanted to put a finer point on that. $1.37 trillion. That's a lot of money that's owed to the federal government. And guess what? As I just mentioned earlier, they're not going to let that go. That's money that's desperately needed by the government to, provide for other programs and just to, the infrastructure and all these other things that have to be taken care of with our tax dollars, these funds from the student loan. But I also wanted to state that, okay, so it says the default or delinquency. So, this is the situation, with the student debt. As I said, it can never be discharged. So, again, not to sound like a broken record, but I can't stress enough to, you have these 3 or 4 months to come up with a plan of action, to decide, get a better job. There are jobs everywhere. Start a business. Maybe you can get some funding through some of the governmental programs. But you have to understand that this cannot be paused indefinitely forever. So these are gifts, at the it's very appropriate during the holiday season. That the president has paused it again, so you're not under that stress right after the holidays. You spent money on your families and children's on Christmas gifts, or just living, just trying to pay your rent. The moratorium for some states ended back in September, October. A lot of people had to catch up on their back rent. Again, those things don't go away. There was some talk, I had lost my train of thought, but now I'm back. There was some talk early in the year, and I talked about it in a previous video, that the president was considering, or he had mentioned, or he was strongly a proponent of forgiving 10,000. Some were asking for $50,000 forgiveness. And I think, I don't know if we ever got a clear answer on that, but I think there was some issue that the president could not make that decision alone. And of course, we know what's going on in Congress right now. There's a lot of uneasiness. So, there's some people that feel that, that's the debt that you collectively signed up for when you signed the dotted line, much like your car payments, your mortgage on your home. That hopefully you did make an informed decision. Hopefully you're doing well so that you can pay back the debt. But again, this is taxpayers' money, and some taxpayers don't feel that they should have to fund a college education for someone that they don't even know. So again, it goes back to my earlier statements about doing your due diligence. That once you sign the dotted line on these student loan documents, it's a legally binding contract that they can put you into collection, that can cause all kind of ripple effects for you. You have higher interest rates. It can affect your credit score. It can prevent you from, buying a home or car at, comfortable rates, because the higher the rate, the higher the payment is for whatever the credit product is. So, prevent you from saving. So you don't want those problems. Again, my goal is to encourage you to be proactive in everything that you do when it comes to money and finances. So I do have a banking background as well, kind of one of those jack of all trades, or Jane, and I wouldn't say I'm not a master of any, but I do have a lot of knowledge. I've worked in different sectors, different industries, so I come to you with a vast wealth of knowledge. And I am certified in some areas. I've talked about that before, so I'm not just here talking. I'm talking from experience and from a certified knowledge base on a lot of different things that I'm talking about. And again, I always like to, you know, talk about what's been publicized, publicly. So it's not just I'm sitting here making up stuff. So at any rate, I wanted to bring that to you. That's great news. 36 million Americans just got a gift. As I said in previous videos, I have a graduate degree. I paid for it myself. Luckily, I was able to pay it off. It took me about 5 years to pay it off, but it was a struggle. I mean, it really was a struggle, but I paid it off in 5 years, and that's a heavy burden to have. If you, again, do your due diligence, you don't want these huge, student debt loans that can never be discharged. There's interest that's accumulating, and that's why I said in this article, that's one of the really great things about it. Not only did the president pause the payments, but he stopped the interest. Very rarely do you get the stopping of the interest on a credit or on a product. For example, if you took advantage of some of those mortgage forbearance programs that happened earlier this year, late last year, they put the payments at the end of your loan, but you still were required for the you were still required to pay that interest during the time that you weren't making payments. That interest just accumulated, and they added everything to the back of your loan in some cases. So very rarely, if you have a credit card that says you can skip a payment, they still typically you still have to pay the interest. If you have a car payment, a loan that they said you could skip a couple of payments, put it to the back of your loan, you still had to pay the interest for the most part. So this is great. Because again, 36 million Americans are affected by this. $1.37 trillion. That's such a big number. I don't even know how many zeros that is, but that's a lot of zeros, I know. And the government wants their money. And that's the bottom line. They're going to get it, on the front end or the back end. So again, Professor BJ here. My advice is always do your due diligence when it comes to any type of loan, any type of, credit product. You want to be proactive and not reactive. You want to make sure you've done your homework so that you're getting the most bang for your buck. that you will be able to make, repay off the debt so that you keep yourself in good standing, your credit score is not affected, your overall livelihood is not affected. So you just want to make sure that you're careful. And again, I want to wish each of you a very happy holiday season, a very Merry Christmas if you celebrate Christmas. I know a lot of people don't. But a very prosperous new year. I'll come to you with some more videos. I will be more consistent. I've just been really busy. As they say, I have to mind the business that pays me, so that's kept me very busy lately. But my time, I'm getting more of a work-life balance, so I'm looking forward to sharing more content with you. I will come back in the next day or so, over the next week, to provide you with the workplace wrap-up for 2021. Some of the issues that I previously discussed, I think, are very, very important as we move into 2022. There's still so many things that we're dealing with individually and collectively, and it spills over into the workplace. Policy changes, benefit changes, this whole, resignation. We're still talking about that. I did a video about that, I think back in August, September, about the people that are resigning, moving into different jobs, retiring early. You know, we're hiring signs almost everywhere I go. So we'll talk about some of those things. So again, if you like the content that I provide in this video, please like, please subscribe, please share this video. Very important for the algorithm so that I can bring you more content. And in the new year, I do promise to be more consistent. I was working on a big project. That project has ended, and now I'm able to spend more time doing some research, providing you with some content. I want it to be quality versus quantity. So again, happy holidays to you all. I wish you nothing but the best. Be safe, be careful, enjoy the time with your family and your friends. So signing off, and hopefully I'll see you before the new year. I'll do another video. Thank you and have a great day. Bye-bye.